This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. My name is Shawn. I'm an innovation strategist. What we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life. Oh, wow. Hey everyone, my name is Shawn. This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. In this podcast, what we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life, change your business, career, and importantly, your life. And I'm super excited because this is the first time ever, that we've gone away from our studio and we're actually here in a studio in Toronto. And there was no other person that I would ask to sit on this pod with me in Toronto than Ron Tite. Ron, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I feel like I'm just being hugged by this chair. It is a huggable chair.
It is very comfy. But we did what we could. We said, listen, Ron's coming. We want to give him something comfortable, and this is what
these are union Muppets.
Yeah,
these are union Muppets. They're double scale union Muppets.
Well, listen, I really appreciate it. I love having conversations with you because I think you are one of the most unique, original management thinkers out there. And before I get to all my questions, I want to know, how do you get inspired? What are you reading? How do you get all your ideas? Give others inspiration on how you come up with all these dangerous ideas.
Well, I think there's two approaches. One is I know that there's almost, an assembly line to the consumption of media, right? I've got the trusted sources, and whether that's Harvard Business Review or the McKinsey Report or Seth Godin or you or, other thinkers and speakers who are out there who are doing stuff every single day. So I have a very systematic approach as to how I consume that stuff and when I consume that stuff. And, but you also need randomness. I think great ideas often come from random places.
Yeah.
And so I know that I'll come up with stuff by watching, we were just talking about Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
And the reason I even stumbled upon, Bo Burnham was because I was listening to a podcast called Good One, which explores comedy.
Yeah, I love it. They just came out with a documentary with, I think, somebody, but it's their first foray into outside of the podcast.
Right? Yeah. But so whether it's that or whether it's randomly scrolling on YouTube or
walking
TikTok,
down the street,
or walking down the street, and it's just being open and being interested in other things. I think a lot of people,
being curious,
business people, just stay focused on business.
Yeah.
And the great ideas, I think, just come from beyond business.
I love that, and I think it comes through in your content. It comes through in your presentations and how you think. It's I think actually being curious is about actually I think the reason why you're such a good marketer and creator is that you're always in touch with what people want, and you're always looking at what people want. And I feel like the bad marketers or the people that are not as good at it, they're not on the ground floor. They're not sensing, they're not, taking in all the randomness.
Right.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, there's if you look at Times Square, the big established businesses are at the top of Times Square.
Okay.
Where the really expensive real estate is, and they think this is the place we want to be. This is where we need to be. And the reality is it's further removed from the reality of the street.
Right.
They place themselves on a pedestal. It's a little higher. But it's totally out of touch.
Right.
And that's why a lot of disruptive forces are, or insurgent forces are down there at street level. They're in the trenches.
Yes.
They're hearing the way people really talk.
Exactly.
And they're seeing what people are really frustrated.
Exactly.
With.
Love that. So listen, the first dangerous idea that I want to bring up to you is actually the title of your book, which is this idea. You can tell me if this is a broader idea, but
sure.
The purpose of purpose. The purpose of purpose.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to give it away, but it seems like the purpose of purpose is growth. Can you explain what you mean by that? Yeah.
I think so many business people see purpose as being, this is about, puppies and kittens and saving the world.
Right.
And dream catchers. And it's dialing into a purpose that puts humanity first and saves the planet. No. And it's not that we shouldn't be concerned with those things. Of course we should. But when somebody says, we sell this product because we want to save the world, or because we believe in gender equality, my initial response is, well, fuck, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope you do.
Yeah.
You tell me you state this in your purpose, that you believe in gender equality or that you believe in saving the planet?
Yeah.
I hope you do. That's table stakes now. Give me a break. So why have that? Why have a stated purpose as an organization? Well, you need it because it helps you win the battle for time, because it helps you believe in something that goes beyond the thing you sell. If you believe in something that goes beyond the thing you sell, you will never be defined by the thing you sell. And then when the thing you sell gets out of fashion or is no longer viable, you're not stuck going, we have no identity as an organization. You pivot to something else that fulfills your belief. It gives you a path to growth through innovation, whether that's developing new SKUs or whether that's pursuing completely new lines of business. It's the belief that holds this together. And there are, so many organizations who they know they need to innovate, and they just, there's people who are like, we do. We take a bunch of stuff and throw it against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Like, what? This is your big plan?
Yeah.
Of how I used to cook pasta? This is come on, we got to be better than that.
So why do you think we got drunk on purpose?
We got totally drunk on purpose for a variety of reasons. One,
so you can agree. I think that we got drunk.
100% we got drunk on purpose.
How much is Simon Sinek responsible for us getting drunk on purpose? And I'm not disparaging him.
No.
I like him.
I totally know you.
I mean, God bless him. But
yeah, I think he is this might be a bit weird. He is as responsible for this as Karl Marx is for communism.
Wow.
Where
that's actually a bigger pie for him.
It's a bigger pie.
Yeah.
But I think and I'm not an expert on Karl Marx, but I do know that those who really know Karl Marx have said that, well, the version of communism that came out was not the Karl Marx version. It's not what he intended.
Right.
It became something else. They used his words and bastardized his words and maybe were inspired by his words, but to take in a completely different direction. I don't think that's what Simon had intended with the Golden Circle and the Power of Why. But we rushed towards everybody going, what's your why?
Right.
My why is. And so that was happening at the same time that there were more injustices happening in the world, whether it's gender equality or racial equality or the kind of gender fluidity. There were so many things that we felt we needed to care about, justifiably. We also entered, I think Roger Martin's done a bunch of work in this, the third era of modern business, which is the purpose era. So we went through, the first era was the management era.
Yeah.
Bunch of plumbers going, I want to grow my plumbing business, but I'm not an MBA. I don't know business. So they went out and they hired a bunch of managers to come in, a bunch of MBAs.
How do we optimize? How do we streamline?
All that. Then, next phase, next era, was when all the owners went, all the managers are making all the money. And so we entered this shareholder primacy era.
Okay.
Milton Friedman kicks it off in 1970. We take people like Jack Welch, make them CEO of the century for driving shareholder value. And then, starting 10 years ago, we start to realize they actually didn't drive shareholder value. GE was taken off the Dow Jones in 2017. They're not driving value. So people looked at driving value as manipulating stock price, just playing to the share price as a proxy for shareholder value. Of course, the ultimate shareholder value is a business that continues to thrive over time. And so when we entered the purpose era, coming out of that, which is, hey, if you focus on purpose and focus on executing against purpose, real purpose, what will you drive? You'll drive shareholder value.
Yeah.
But it really is about focusing on something bigger. So that, to me, is what purpose is. What is your fundamental belief? It is the strategic heartbeat of your organization.
Love that.
It's not the caring heartbeat.
Right.
It's not your philanthropic heartbeat. It's not your cause-related heartbeat. It is your strategic heartbeat for the business.
But the problem that I've always had with the getting drunk on purpose is that more from an employee standpoint, it's like if you ask people what the purpose of the organization that you work for is, and I've done this assignment where you do a consulting project and then you're supposed to figure out the current state and you 100 people in the organization and you say, what is the purpose of this organization? Why does it exist? And everyone will give you a fundamentally different answer. And really what it comes down to is their own sort of what they think their purpose is and how that aligns. Yet if no one can articulate the purpose of an organization, then why are we going through all the theatrics of talking about purpose? And I don't know, like, can we name a company that has a purpose that everybody in the organization can recall back and say, that is our purpose? I haven't seen it.
Well, it's either that happens or the opposite, which is you go, what's the purpose of the organization? And they go, the purpose of this organization is to create a community of people that they spit out whatever has been beaten into their brain on onboarding day.
Yeah.
And the first slide of the CEO's every offsite of their presentation. So they know it. What's worse is, but they have no idea how they bring it to life, like how they contribute to it.
So at the end of the day, though, people are going to have their own individual purpose.
Sure, yeah.
How do you connect that to the organizational's purpose, or we don't? Listen, if Sally is like the finance manager and she just wants to clock in and out, like, is that okay? Does she have to align with the fact that we are here to save cats? I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. That yes, there will always be this tension, I think, between a personal purpose and an organizational purpose. So the first thing is that one, we have to admit that sometimes a person's purpose is a job. They need to feed their family.
Yeah.
That's my purpose, not get fired so I can feed my family.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful purpose. When I hear from those people, then I'll say, but we live in an amazing country. You can get another gig. I mean, maybe not right away, and maybe not in all fields, but you can get another job.
Yeah.
So why here? And that's when you start to uncover, oh, well, the reason I'm here is because, and then you start to uncover some softer reasons as to what brings them in every day. But yes, that is a part of purpose. I need to feed my family. The second thing is, my personal purpose might be, if I'm a manager at a CPG, my personal purpose might be related to how I see my role as a leader. That my personal purpose is to bring out the best in my people. And I'm going to operate as a leader with that in mind. And I'm going to manage people in that way. I'm going to inspire my team. And if I say, yeah, but the purpose of the organization is to bring foods to families that are healthy and affordable. And they would say, yeah, that's not my purpose. But by me managing my people in this way and bringing out the best of them, by them being really great at their job, that delivers on the purpose of the organization. Right. And so, it may not be a shared purpose, articulated purpose, but it is a complementary purpose to the organization.
So I want to bring up this second dangerous idea, and I want to see how this aligns with the purpose of purpose.
Sure.
So Rick Rubin has this really great line.
His book is fantastic.
Which is this idea that the audience comes last.
Yeah.
It's this idea that if you really want to truly serve your users, your customers at the end of the day, that you should be doing something that fulfills you, that serves you, because then you will basically give the best that you can, instead of just asking everybody what they want and serving something that's mediocre. Do something that you believe is fundamentally right or good or remarkable in one way. The audience comes last, which I think flies in the face of everything that we said around customer centricity.
Yeah.
So tell me what you think about this idea and maybe how it aligns with the idea of purpose.
Yeah. My first book was called Everyone's an Artist, or at least they should be. And that book explored, like, what can we learn from artists? And that book came out of a keynote that I used to do called Everyone's a Comedian, or at least they should be.
Okay.
My first part of my career was 20 years on stage as a comic. And so I knew that there was a bunch of things that I had and did as a comedian that I thought business people should follow. And that there was a lot that we could learn as business people from the world of comedians. So do I think that there's a lot that we can learn from artists? 100%. It's interesting that he's a musician who spent more time in a studio, isolated away from the audience. And so it's really easy to say, we're going to be in this cocoon of the studio and we're not going to listen to the audience because he's not hearing directly. Go and ask a stand-up if they think the audience comes last. Go out on stage and do a 40-minute headlining set where nobody laughs once because you think you're doing something that's better than the audience. Now, that doesn't mean you need to...
it's like you can never cheat comedy because the market will always, in comedy, the market will always tell you
it's pure
if
capitalism.
It's good or not. Yeah, it's pure capitalism.
It's pure capitalism. It's completely.
Yeah.
And now that doesn't mean that as a comedian you need to only pursue the cheap laughs. So there's a combination there where yes, you 100% he's right, and that we need to focus on things that bring us fulfillment and joy. At the same time, in the art world, I think there is a response, and when we often get great fulfillment, I'm going, I thought this was really interesting or important or funny, and when somebody else, through some emotional expression, says, me too. We're like, oh, you believe in that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. There's no better for feeling on stage. You know this, right?
Yeah.
No better feeling on stage and delivering a punchline and having a whole room of people go, I love it.
Yeah.
So there's parts of that I believe in. Where customers should really come first, and where he's right, is customers give us insights through, if we get to know customers really well, and we start to explore what they're responding to, what their frustrations are, where are they buying. Like, we can use all that, statistical analysis of the consumer journeys and like all that kind of stuff to identify opportunities that nobody is servicing. Nobody is meeting this opportunity. Now, we can take that and we can generate products and we can generate communications. That's where we go, I'm good. I don't need to take this to a focus group and ask consumers, do you like this? And get their approval to do it.
Right.
I think we're all smart enough. There should be 20 people in a boardroom who know the product, who now know the consumer, who should be bold enough to go, this is amazing.
Right.
And if it's not, what do we know? But to delay that decision and just turn everything over to the customer and go, so what do you think?
Right.
I don't know what
So
they want.
it's a balance, right?
Yeah.
Because they always say, if the whole Henry Ford, if you ask somebody, if you wanted...
Let's say a horse with more horsepower.
Right.
Exactly.
So you don't totally disagree with Rick Rubin on this, the audience comment class, but okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And it depends on the art form. In music, I guess, you're a big music, buff, and I guess music is a little bit more. It is more. I guess it is more personal in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Creating art is a little bit more personal. If you're creating a painting, you're not. I guess you're not checking the focus groups to see if you like it.
Right.
It's just different.
Yeah. When I wrote that book, the very first thing I did, because I knew from the comedy world.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the visual art world. I love buying it and appreciating it, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. So I went to, there was a show in Toronto, they used to be called Art Battle. And there'd be 5 painters. And they'd be down on the floor, and they'd just be surrounded by a crowd of people. And they'd be given a topic, and they'd have 20 minutes to paint something. And it was just this really cool, it was like, one of those scenes where you're like, I'm not cool enough to be here. I'm so not cool enough to be here.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed all the artists. And I was sensing this, I interviewed them individually. And they all talked about the other artists in a really complimentary way. And I said, but aren't these people, they're your competition.
Yeah.
Why are you being so helpful with these other people? And they said, no, they're not my competition. I have no competition. Every single one of them said the exact same thing. I have no competition. And I said, no, if I want to buy a painting and I got $1,000 and you've got one and they've got one, I'm trying to decide between these two paintings. And they all were like, no. If I look at somebody else and try to make my art like their art, then that's a commodity.
Yes.
I've lost
100%.
the uniqueness. And then it's just the lowest price that wins. And if you love the blue painting and I paint pink paintings, amazing. I love for you that you found the blue painting. I'm gonna still do pink.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a great insight into business, that they have no competition.
So, you obviously, you're talking about this book and taking inspiration from comedy. I want to ask you, do you think that it's actually harder today to do an extraordinary 60-minute presentation than it was in the past? Or do you think the stakes have gotten higher? Do you think it's harder to do because people's attention spans are decreasing? I'm just curious.
Can I be really cocky about this?
Woo!
I'm gonna be really, really cocky about it.
Let's do this.
Not for you and me.
Oh, you include me in this?
Not for you and me, it has.
Yeah.
No. What has happened is that we have generated more people claiming to be keynote speakers.
Right.
We have generated more people who want to get on stage, who want to pursue a career in speaking. We have generated more people who can create their own content like never before, who can write books like never before, who can have a podcast like never before, who get external validation on being smart and being credible enough to go on stage for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
But they don't have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
They don't have the ability to hold an audience. Someone just wrote a thing the other day, and I was like, no. It was the death of the 60-minute keynote.
Right.
And I said, no. If you can't hold a crowd for 60 minutes, you don't deserve the spot.
Right.
You just don't.
Talk your shit. Yes.
I totally get that. I'm not trying to protect the idea of like, this is what a keynote is. This is a person who stands with like, it can be anything. It could be an hour of Q&A.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, call your keynote whatever you want to call it. But if you are saying, we don't allow 60-minute keynotes because they're not engaging enough, I'm sorry, you've had speakers who haven't been able to hold a crowd for 60 minutes. You've had bad speakers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I love that because if you are truly a gifted and extraordinary speaker that can change people's perspective or make them laugh or make it insightful, then people will want more.
Yes.
They should be leaving that 60 minutes and be like, this should be 90.
Yep.
This should be 2. Like, I want more.
Yep.
And, that's why they're like, okay, where can I get, what are you providing afterwards? Where's the book? Where's the workshop?
Yeah.
I want that afterwards. And the difference between, I guess, the good speakers and the extraordinary speakers is the ones that can get people to be locked in for 60 minutes or more.
Yep.
And just have them just tuned in.
Yep. I don't know if you get this, I'll get it sometimes on briefing calls with clients, and they'll say, can you come up with 3 interactive exercises during your keynote? We find that the crowd is more engaged when the speaker does an interactive component to their keynote. And I will always say, sounds like you've had some crappy speakers.
Love that response.
Because I think what your goal should be is to have an engaged audience.
Yeah.
That, no argument from me, 100%. Know that this is the expertise I bring. I'm going to be engaged. Your audience is going to be engaged. If they're not, I know enough that I'll flip on the fly. I'll do something to get around whatever issue it is that seems to be happening in the room. But that's on me.
Yep.
And know that I will do that. I've gone so far as to say, and if they're not, I'll give you your money back. Like, this is what I'm here, this is why I'm here.
Totally. And your job is for 60 minutes or more, is just to, put on the greatest show that they've ever seen. Like, that's the job. And I love that response. I want to ask you another question that's a hot take. Do you think that a 60-minute keynote is harder than a 60-minute comedy set? And you've done both. You're the only,
No.
like, you're one of the only. No, okay.
No,
Why?
I think what's challenging about a comedy set is it depends where it is. If it's in a corporate audience, then no. But if it's a set in a club, you've got this half of this quarter of the room is a certain socioeconomic class. This quarter is a different.
Let's put them
culturally,
in the same. No. Let's put them in the same room. Let's put them in a theater. Let's put them in the same.
same crowd, same audience.
Yes, we'll do a keynote in a crowd.
Then no, I don't think it's not more or less difficult, because why I transitioned from club comedy to corporate comedy was because I hated that I had to dumb it down to lowest common denominator to find something that everybody had in common. Where in corporate, we know what everybody has in common: the company or the industry.
Right.
So when I started speaking, because I was doing corporate comedy, and I would go in the day and I would listen to all the presentations from the VP of sales and the director of the region into whoever the keynote was. And that night I would write a customized set based on what I just heard.
Right.
Why? Because everybody has it in common.
Right.
And so
that's harder to do then, because you have to.
Well,
in a way, because you're still customizing.
I think
you have to customize on the fly. While if you're a comedian, you still have to customize, but you can come in with a set.
If you do the work on both sides, you customize a lot.
Of course,
like a ton of your part of your keynote.
I'm just curious because a 60-minute comedy routine. I mean, any comedian watching this would be like, this guy. This is like one of the hardest things to do, to get people to laugh for 60 minutes. And I would argue that to change someone's perspective in 60 minutes is actually harder to do. And if you're able to do that in 60 minutes in a way that is compelling, it's arguably harder to do.
Yeah, I think it's people, you don't know whether you've really changed them, right? Like, you can deliver a keynote and you get the great applause, you get the laughter in all the right places, and it seems like that was amazing.
Yep.
And they don't really connect with it on a deeper level. Same thing with comedy. You can get superficial laughter that's really funny, and they never think about it again. You know our friend James Cunningham, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Super funny guy.
This is the difference between superficial and deep comedy. James Cunningham had a bit early in his career. The bit was about when you go and look at an iron, my girlfriend got the iron and she said it was on a 1. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's only one setting. It's the furthest, the hottest, with the most steam. That's it. And like wallpaper's coming off the wall to a guy, that's the only setting for an iron. But women, you're putting it on 1. What do you got? Tissue paper pants?
Right.
Like, is that what you're ironing? Tissue paper pants?
Yeah.
No word of a lie that whenever I'm in a hotel with a ironing board and an iron, I think of that bit.
Right.
Every single time.
Right.
It affects me on a deep human level that I'll never be willing to admit. The same thing happens in Keynote. We know that people come to us and say, every time I do this thing, I think of your line. I think of your story.
Yeah.
And that's when you've affected them on a deeper level. So other people, they go, that was great, and they never think about it again. So I think in both cases, it's not an easy answer.
So how do you go about writing? What's your writing process when it comes to a keynote? Like, how do you structure the bits? How do you go about, because you include so much comedy in what you do, is the process the same? Like, you're thinking about a concept, you're waiting for the punchline. Tell me how you think about like a keynote set, and how would that even differ from like a comedy set?
Yeah. So I'm always working on the next speech.
Yep.
I'm always working on the next speech. Some people do I've got a new speech. And I get a rash thinking about having a new speech.
Yeah.
Where you just launch a whole new hour?
Yeah.
Like would never want to do that. So I have an hour, and then I go new two, a new two, a new two, a new two, and by the end of the year, or whenever, now you've got a whole new speech. So that's how I'm always thinking, moving stuff into these buckets. And then when I go to do a speech, I just go, I think I should use this bucket, this bucket, this bucket, this bucket. I think the structure of every speech should follow these 5 things. 1, what's going on in the world? First, let's just take a step back. What's going on? Sorry, let me back up. The first thing it should do is some sort of intriguing story off the top of where them go, where's he going with this? And it's either a story or example that sets up your main point,
right,
or it's a pivot into your speech,
right,
where they go, oh, I've never heard of that, never thought of that before. So some sort of introductory story that's unique and different that only you tell. Because if you get up and go, Blockbuster versus Netflix.
Right. But even before that, the way that you connect is like, you'll pick up on something in the room, like, the host, like something happened in the room. This is called Back to the Future. You'll do something.
So there's the right off the top, there's a cold open versus a warm.
Right.
So a cold open is I'm starting the speech.
Yeah.
I don't like to do that.
I don't like to do that either.
It's horrible. Something has happened before you got on that stage, and you need to send them a message right away that says, I just got here and I'm dialed in on the reality of this room.
Exactly.
So warm open right away. Then into some sort of intro story. Then I think the speech follows, 1, what's going on in the world. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. These are 5 trends, and you don't need to list them. These are the 5 trends. This is all the crazy stuff that's happening. All that stuff generates a problem. What is the problem? What is the problem? For them to go, oh yeah, I suffer from that problem. Then tell me, what do you fundamentally believe about that problem? Do you think it's bullshit? Do you think it's a wonderful opportunity that people aren't looking at? Do you think it's a disgrace? What do you believe about the problem? 4, how should people solve the problem? And this is the big difference for a lot of young speakers or people who are starting out. They go, here's how I solved the problem in my career.
Right.
No. I don't want to hear while you solve the problem. I want to know how we should solve the problem.
Right.
So here's the 4-step ways to solving that problem. And then the 5th part, which is kind of run throughout, which is, why should I believe you?
Right.
In a world of everyone's an expert, why should I believe you? And that's everything from how you're introduced on stage to your authenticity of, I'm not here to sell you anything, I'm just here to share my thoughts, through to maybe some data points along the way, through to personal anecdotes, and then through case studies that happen beyond the room, beyond their industry. So you can go, it's not just you.
Yeah.
This is happening out there in music, and it's happening in tennis, and it's happening over here. And I think those are the 5 things that really deliver a great...
I've been actually saying in my keynotes, don't trust me, because I'm just here to ask some really bold questions based on my experience and what I'm seeing. Actually, your job is to go home and do the work and actually assess if this is true or not. My job is not for you to agree with me. My job is for you to for you to plant some ideas in your mind so that you can go home and be like, this guy's smoking something, or is he right?
Yeah,
and
they're only going to take 2 things anyhow.
Yeah.
Right? They're only going to 2 things.
If they can,
Yeah.
I think 99%, it's funny because you'll watch something and you'll just immediately forget 99% of the things that they just said. And it could be great. It could be awesome.
Yeah.
But that's just reality. People just forget. So, I could pick your brain about speaking all day long. But I wanted to ask you a question when it comes to, maybe it comes to branding, but I'll see how you answer this question. I actually asked this question recently to Riaz Meghji on another podcast. And I love this question because it's about what are you personally investing in? So I'm a big basketball fan. LeBron, he spends $1 million, probably more now, on his body.
Right.
And the reason why he is the greatest of all time is because he spends $1 million on his body, and he's been successful even at 39 years old. He's still dunking over people, right? It's incredible. If I gave you an extra just $1 million floating around, what do you think you would invest it on in terms of business? or your purse, just not your family or your kids, or giving it to your uncle.
Can I pay off some debt?
Yeah, no. Like
in this interest rate environment?
What would you invest that extra $1 million on?
I don't know if you've heard me talk this kind of the balance of like assembly line versus concept car. Where like assembly line is where you make your money, right? Like it's repeatable behavior. Everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do, who they're supposed to give it to. Like that's where you make your money. Concept cars in the automotive world have no hope of ever going into production.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
They're not. You will never buy that car.
Amazing to look at.
Amazing to look at. Completely impractical. But the reason they do them is because they do it to do it, just to do it. And then they go, well, you know what? This gas cap, we could actually use the gas cap. So we're going to take that and we're going to plug it into the assembly line as an innovation to what we're already doing. But we would never have got to that if it wasn't for doing the thing that had no hope of ever going to production. So
is that why, I'm not a big car guy, is that why they do that?
Yeah.
Or do they do it kind of like, fashion houses will throw these like runway models with the most ridiculous things that they will never sell or nobody will ever buy except for the handbag that they have on the hands. Is it similar?
Yeah, because those cars are never going into production. There's nothing to be gained from doing that. There's not enough press around them.
Right.
You go, oh, you guys were the one that did that car?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, they sit on the floor of an auto show and that's it. It gives you a hint of where the world is going, and if we were to just take the shackles or the handcuffs off of saying it's not going into production, because the thing that always gets in the way is that'll never work, they will never buy it, and if your response is, great, because we're not going to sell it, now that completely frees your mind to do anything.
Love that.
So in the space that I'm in, I would love to take that $1 million and say, we're going to do one product launch for a product that is not supported with advertising. And a legacy product, it already exists, but it's not supported. And we're going to build the first AI campaign. I don't mean we're going to use ChatGPT to write social post copy. I mean from the inception of the research, we're going to use virtual audiences through Sego, one of our research partners.
Love that.
Created this virtual audience. It's basically a virtual focus group with customer segmentation that you can go to all the time, and it's all delivered through AI. So from that concept all the way through, into, okay, well, who writes the brief?
Right.
Like, okay, how do we use AI to write the brief? And all the way through to we're going to buy the media and we're going to pop it up and we're going to see what happens. And
it's a concept car because it's like you're almost like, because it's so, you're leveraging AI, it's almost like it's an easy way to test almost.
It's an easy way to test. The only thing I would do with it that maybe isn't obvious is I think we have to also test what are engagement levels of the people working on it? What is morale like of the people who are executing the tasks? How are their jobs changing? Like really, if we're gonna do it, let's analyze everything about it. Because right now, we're only mystified by the output.
Right.
That's the only thing that's really amazing for us, which is, did you see the thing it could do? Like, you were like, it just did that. And that's creating an effect on people that isn't positive. We went from FOMO to FOBO. FOMO, like what used to be the fear of missing out. It was, what do you mean I can't get the new thing? Why can't my company let me get that new app? Why can't I get my own phone? Why can't they never investing in the right technology? There was always this fear of missing out. And boom, a little more than a year ago, or a little less than a year ago, it became the FOBO, the fear of being obsolete.
Yeah.
People going, ugh, I actually don't want to embrace it. I hope we don't get it. I hope we don't implement it, because my job is gone.
Right.
And I don't agree with that, but I think.
So on that note, what do you think AI's impact is going to be on the marketing world, the ad world?
I think those people who avoid it completely are going down.
Okay.
I think those people who exclusively embrace it are going down.
Love that. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a complement of using tools to drive efficiency and speed to generate even better insights at a faster time, more compelling ideas.
We need more, my fear is that we are going to inundate the world with AI-driven content and videos, and just like, it's just gonna look all AI-driven. So, conversation like this will just be me and you, like, just to an AI version of Ron talking to AI version of Shawn. It's just gonna be shit.
We've kind of been through this on a more basic level, but when we introduced clip art, sorry,
what?
I spit all over.
Oh, sorry, no. Clip art is a great innovation. What are you talking about?
No, I know.
What do you mean by this?
Okay, so we introduced clip art, right, within deck creation.
Yeah.
And we're like, you now can take from a bank of images and illustrations and put them into your decks. And what did it become? It became, we raised the quality of the decks, or the perception was we raised the quality of the decks. But what do? We got a bunch of decks that all look alike.
Right.
Because they're all accessing the same bank. And so now, whenever we somebody who has actually customized the design of slides, we go, I've never seen that before. That's not in my clip art bank.
Right.
And you're like, no, because nobody else is doing it. There was a great line, and it kills me that I can't remember who. It was a post from somebody, a young woman who said, only humans can do what no human has done before. And I love that, because whether we look at accessing data to give us insights and inspiration, it's all based on what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
Whether we look at AI generating copy or images or video, it's all based on what has happened in the past. And only humans can do what no human has done before. So I think the people who will be really, really rewarded are the people who can harness AI to drive efficiency, to spend less time on shit, and more time on big, bold ideas that no one has thought of before.
I think we're on the same wavelength. I think AI is going to, to me, it's the end of mediocrity. And because AI is already mediocre. It can already create a mediocre picture, a mediocre copy, a mediocre analyses, it can already do that. So how are you going to be remarkable? How are you going to be original in this era? It's going to be disproportionately more important. And then the most important piece is like, how are you going to take a big, a risk, a bet? I think that's going to be so much more important. I think about that all the time, especially in a world where everyone has access to the same tool. It's going to all look the same. So how do we go off and take a bet?
Yeah. I think we have to give ourselves the right to do it, right?
What do you mean?
If you're going to take a bet, I think we're consciously taking a bet. I think people, they would agree with the notion of needing to take a bet, but they don't bet.
Right.
They, whoever's line it was, like, I don't want to play to win. I want to play not to lose.
Right.
Like, I just don't want to do stuff that doesn't get me fired.
Right.
And there are a lot of organizations who, CEOs who's like, we here at this company, oh, sorry, there we are. We here at XYZ company, we embrace failure. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You fire people.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
You work at IBM.
There's nothing about your compensation structure. There's nothing about your promotional path where you embrace failure.
Right.
You don't.
That's lip service.
Yeah, 100%. So if you don't embrace failure, what are the structures in place so that people can't take a bet?
Yeah.
Place a bet.
That's
what happens if they lose the money?
And you mentioned something that's really important, which is what is the structure for people to go off and take bets, which is, I think, really important, because my thing is that everybody who says they want to experiment, they want to fail, they want to embrace failure, yet their compensation structure, their performance management framework is not aligned to that. It's
Right.
like you try something new, and then what happens most of the times is you get slapped on the hand and you're like, don't do that again, right?
Right.
And you have to be able to incentivize people to go off and take shots at the end of the day.
Yeah, and there's an honesty about that, I think, of like, I remember we did a really cool thing where at my previous agency, we had composed a song for a commercial. And it was a great song. It was a 30-second song for a commercial. I loved the song so much. And I went to the client and I said, give me 20 grand and I'll turn the 30-second song into a 3-minute song. And then we'll release that song as a single before the spot ever goes to air. And then 2 months later, the spot's gonna go to air with potentially this hit song at its core right when it's right there. It's a really cool idea.
Like it.
And the client said, what's my ROI going to be on that $20,000? And I just said, oh, you're flushing 20 grand down the toilet.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. You're flushing that money down the toilet. It's not gonna be a hit song. It's not gonna hit #1, but it might.
Yeah.
It might. And what if it does? And that's gonna really be huge. And even if it doesn't, we will change the way we view music in commercials.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a contract that we're gonna have to go through. We're gonna have to pay the artist in a different way. We will completely disrupt the use of music in commercials for 20 grand.
Right.
That's nothing.
And I love that because I think sometimes we always ask the question, what if this doesn't work out? But the question we should be asking is, what if this works out way better than we ever imagined? And, that's taking a bet, That's saying, what can this song do at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So I love that.
And more, if failure now more means no one saw it,
Hey,
what a time to fail.
Yeah, hey, I'm about that.
You failed because no one saw it? Amazing, no one saw it. Move on, do the next thing.
Yeah, that's like 99% of the stuff that I do. So, hey, I know we gotta go, but usually at this pod, what we do is we ask like some hot topic questions that I didn't prep you on.
Sure.
And I don't know if you saw this trending over the last couple of days, but there's this big health influencer. His name is Andrew Huberman.
Okay.
He's a guy that puts out incredible information on health and wellness.
Yeah.
And he was recently in a takedown article from New York Mag that said that although he's created all this incredible information, he's also like dating 6 women at the same time.
Right.
And should we be taking advice from somebody on health and wellness when the guy is dating 6 women at the same time? On the same wavelength, Jay Shetty, another influencer, he was also in an article where they said, actually a lot of stuff is plagiarized and his coaching school doesn't have the right credentials, and the institutions that he listed, they had to remove them from the website. All this to say that we put these individuals on this incredible pedestal. We treat these individuals as like the new religion, like Huberman Bros is like a thing, or Jay Shetty is a movement, and yet time and time again, these people fail us.
Yeah. That's why I think that it's really difficult for brands now. Over the past 20 years, consumers have just been lied to constantly. And it's not just an influencer or content creator thing. It's Lance Armstrong. It's Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
It's Bill Clinton. It is one after another, like politicians and celebrities. Like, it's just one after the other who are just lying to people, blatantly lying and completely destroying trust, to the point that the average consumer is like, I don't know who to believe anymore. I don't know who to trust anymore. And so I think the only way around that is complete transparency, and
trust no one.
And trust no one, and dig around and see if it's credible information. I think in the case of Huberman, the disconnect isn't that the information isn't credible or inspiring or informative. The disconnect is between there's a person who claims to be about this, but in reality, the person's a schmuck. And I think we just then.
But that's the world, right? Like I like P. Diddy's music, Mo Money, Mo Problems, but I don't know what's in that whole lawsuit, but there's a lot of stuff that...
A lot of stuff.
That's why he's running, right?
Yeah.
Can you separate the content from the creator?
I don't think you can. I think some people can. One of the most horrible moments of my life. No, that's the reason I got into comedy was Bill Cosby.
Cosby was hilarious.
He was the reason. I saw Bill Cosby and I was like, I can do that. Like I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And that talent is something, I think I can harness a little bit of that. And my storytelling in my early days of comedy was very Cosby-esque. And he was still performing in his 60s and said, like, I just loved Bill Cosby. And then the truth comes out. I do not think of him in the same way, and I certainly can't listen to my favorite bits. I just can't.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody could.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think we lose respect for the content by losing respect for the person who generated it.
Like Will Smith, I love Will Smith. I was watching the Oscars, and for Will Smith, I was so excited. This was his moment. This was the day. And when I saw what he did, I was so hurt for him, for Chris Rock, who I love. Chris Rock is my favorite. Yeah. I was so hurt for both of them, and I can't look at Will Smith the same way.
I think there's one point of difference, though.
Okay, fine. What's that?
Bill Cosby was over years in a life doing horrible things.
True.
Whereas, from what I know, the Will Smith thing was a huge one-off. I hadn't heard that in private Will Smith was a total jerk, or that he was a horrible human being.
Right.
Everything up to that point I heard was, this is a really good
100%.
guy.
Okay, yeah.
And he had a moment in his life.
That's
true. We haven't had moments like that.
There's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And what Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, these individuals did, Will Smith is probably not on that spectrum. Dating 6 women at the same time, I don't know. Well, anyways, we'll draw the spectrum. That's a good. We should just try it. Listen, I love having you on. I love your insights. I can't wait for the book to come out. We're gonna clip up this thing, and when the book comes out as well, we'll reclip it so that people see how important this is. But I really appreciate you coming through, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you. Likewise. I on that last topic, can I just say to your viewers, wherever you are.
Do not cancel Ron Tite, okay?
No.
Don't clip up he only likes Bill Cosby and leave it. Do not.
He's the reason I got into comedy. You talk, to your listeners who are like, you speak about bold decisions and being bold.
Yeah.
And they should know that from somebody who's in your business that you are bold. That I don't know anybody that's shaken up the industry and kind of, not even like consciously going, I'm going to disrupt this thing, by being completely bold in the way you approach your content, your speeches, your engagements. So you live it.
Wow, I really appreciate it. That means a lot coming from you because, when I joined Speaker Spotlight, the agency that we're both on, when I asked them who should, I look up to, and they said Ron Tite. And I went to you immediately, and you were so gracious with your time. And every time I was like, hey, Ron, let me pick your brain, you were so gracious. So that means a lot coming from you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Another episode of Dangerous Ideas. Rate, review, subscribe, whatever you got to do. We got to do this at the end, Ron. Thank you guys so much.